Picture towering cliffs on either side, a vast storm-blue sea ahead, and behind you, rising dust on the horizon that means an army is closing in. There is nowhere to go. Have you ever obeyed God perfectly and still ended up somewhere that looked exactly like a trap? This is Exodus 14, and it's not a story about a wrong turn. It's a story about a God who led his people into a dead end on purpose, because what happened next could only be explained one way. Here on Beyond the Cross, we tell true stories from Scripture that speak straight into real life. Today we're walking through the moment Israel felt most cornered and discovering that spot may have been chosen by God, not stumbled into by accident. A few days earlier, God had already chosen this route on purpose. Instead of the shorter road through Philistine territory, he led Israel toward the wilderness and the sea, a path Scripture doesn't fully explain, but one that was deliberate from the very first step. Then God told Moses exactly why. "Camp by the sea," he said, "and I will harden Pharaoh's heart so he pursues you, so that I may be honored over Pharaoh and his whole army, and Egypt will know that I am the Lord." That's the turning point of this whole story. The trap was real. Pharaoh truly believed Israel was helplessly boxed in, but it was never a trap God stumbled into. It was the stage he had already built. When the people actually saw Pharaoh's army approaching, all of that purpose was invisible to them. They were terrified, and they cried out, telling Moses it would have been better to serve the Egyptians than to die out here in the wilderness. That fear makes complete sense. If you've ever obeyed God into a situation that suddenly looked impossible, you already know exactly how that crowd felt standing at the edge of that sea. Moses answered the panic with one of the most repeated lines in Scripture. "Do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." "The Lord will fight for you," he said. "You need only be still." But standing still wasn't the whole instruction. God immediately told Moses to raise his staff and stretch his hand over the sea. Trust and obedience moved together here, not trust instead of action. As this happened, the pillar of cloud that had led Israel all along moved from in front of them to behind them, standing directly between the camp and Pharaoh's army, giving light to Israel and thick darkness to Egypt through the entire night. All night the two camps sat within sight of each other, and neither one moved. God's presence wasn't only in the miracle that was coming, it was already there, guarding them through every hour of the waiting. Then Moses stretched his hand over the sea again, and the Lord drove it back with a strong east wind all through the night, turning the seabed into dry ground, with walls of water rising on the right and on the left. The people crossed on dry ground, walls of water towering on either side, footprints pressed into wet sand where a sea had been only hours before. It was a real physical path through what should have been impossible. By morning, Pharaoh's army followed them into that same path, and everything went wrong for them. Their chariot wheels jammed, the ground beneath them gave way to confusion, and the army realized too late that the Lord himself was fighting for Israel. Once Israel reached the far shore safely, Moses stretched his hand over the sea one final time, and the walls of water returned, closing completely over Pharaoh's pursuing army. Israel stood on the far shore and saw what the Lord had done. Scripture says they feared the Lord and believed in him and in Moses, his servant. Their fear at the water's edge had turned into worship on the other side of it. So let's shift for a moment from what happened at that sea to what it means for us. Because that same God who led Israel into a dead end on purpose is still the God we follow through our own tight-cornered seasons. This was a unique moment in a much bigger story, not a promise that every hard season ends in an identical miracle. But the principle underneath it still holds. God is not surprised by your tight spaces, and he is not absent in them. If you're standing somewhere right now that feels like cliffs on one side and open water on the other, bring that fear honestly to God the way Israel did, and then listen closely for what he's actually asking you to do next. The sea that looked like the end of Israel's story was actually the doorway into the next one. Whatever wall is in front of you right now, the God who parted that water has not lost the plan for yours. If this encouraged you, share it with someone standing at their own edge of the sea right now, and subscribe to Beyond the Cross for more true stories from Scripture that speak straight into real life.